Hi, I'm Elaine Tinius. Congratulations on making it to home study. We know this part of the process can cause some anxiety, a little fear, and overall a great deal of excitement. We hope the following video helps alleviate some of those items to help you get more prepared and overall what you can expect in the next steps. I hope you enjoy the video.
I'm Melissa Gray, and I'm a home study writer with CK Family Services.
My name is Stephanie Davis. I've been with CK Family Services for almost 4 years writing home studies. I love being a contract caseworker for the agency because it allows me to be a full-time mom to my kids and be home, but it also allows me to continue working in adoption, which is a passion of mine, and meeting families who are opening their homes to children in need and helping them work through that process.
I love the family so much. They're willing to take on this just great journey and go through it together, and I love hearing their story. And God is such a specific God, and He works in everyone's lives differently. And it's really changed how I work as a parent, how I see life, and just see Him and how He works in everyone's lives differently. And so, and to have the opportunity to go into their homes, hear their story, I'm just honored to be a part of that.
I love being able to see these families who have been called to provide foster care or to adopt. I am an adopted child, and that's why adoption is so close to my heart and a passion of mine. And it just is so amazing to see these families that want to open their homes to children in need. What a blessing that is.
I'm independently contracted, but I'm in constant communication with each family development specialist, and they may ask me to get something while I'm there, and I can do that for them. So even though I'm not going into the office necessarily, I feel like I am a part of the team because we do work together to make sure that the family is prepared and ready and that they are able to get licensed. To be a home study writer, to me, means that it's my responsibility to make sure I'm painting an accurate picture of this family and that the right child is placed in the right home. So, and try and prepare the family as much as possible for what's to come. And yeah, just to paint an accurate picture of who they are. I'm in the home typically for an interview a total of about 8 hours, and that can change.
If there's a couple with children, then it could be 5 to 6 hours that we're interviewing the family and doing the individual and joint interviews.
If it's a couple and they have children, then the joint interview, which consists of the spouses together, will be about 4 hours. And then I meet with each child individually. Those interviews typically take about 15 minutes. And then I do all the checklists, which I bring myself. You don't have to provide any of that. I walk through the home compliance checklist and just take a tour of your home, and then we walk through together the child profile checklist and the foster and adoptive parent placement questions.
I always tell families that a lot of it depends on how much detail they give the home study writer when they're asking the questions, as well as how many children are involved and whether or not they're in the home the full time the home study writer is there, or if they're just there for a short time to do their interviews. Everybody who lives in the home has to be at the home study at some point. The children who are in the home do not have to be present for the entire visit. And a lot of times I've had families who maybe set up childcare for the kids or have a grandparent come over to keep the kids distracted while I meet with the families to do the individual and joint interviews. Every family is different in how they want that done. Depending on if your children tend to want to interrupt or be the center of everything, that's gonna lengthen the home study time. So sometimes it may be good to have a backup plan for childcare once the interviewer has done the family interview as well as the individual interview with each child. And then any other family member that may live with you, if you have a parent that is living in your home, that family member has to be interviewed as well, but they do not have to sit during the entire interview process.
During the interview process, everyone does need to be there, unless it's an adult child that lives far away and they're unable to get there, and then they need to submit a letter or some sort of reference. And they usually send that to the family development specialist, and then I'm able to have access to that. But anyone who lives nearby or anyone who lives in the home, yes, everyone needs to be present for that.
What you want to do when you get the email assigning your home study writer to you, you get checklists on that email that show you what the home study writer is going to be looking for in your home. The best thing you can do is go over those checklists. Those are like little cheat sheets to kind of give you an idea of what that home study writer is going to be looking for. And if you can do those and work on those checklists and have those complete, then by the time the home study writer is there, that can really fasten the process that we are doing the interviews. Once the home study writer is finished with the interviews, there is a walkthrough in the home that is done. Some families live in a city or a county where they're not able to get the fire inspection checklist done or the environmental health checklist done. And so your home study writer will complete those as well. But there is also a home compliance checklist, and you get those in the email so you can be preparing your home for those checklists.
The home does not have to be perfect for the home study. In fact, there are sometimes they will tell me when I call to schedule, they'll say, we're renovating our bathroom and it's not ready yet. And I tell them it's gonna be okay. Whenever I show up, just let me know a timeline when you think it's gonna be ready. I'll include that in the home study, and then the family development specialist knows to follow up with those things.
I'm not coming in with a white glove to wipe down everything to see how clean you are. But it does need to be prepared. The best thing you can do is if you have a corner that has clutter in it, just clear it out. Make sure things are put in their place, but don't panic if things aren't perfectly in order, and don't panic if right before I come, your child decides to pull out their Lego bin and dump it in the floor. I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for a true family to be vulnerable and to show me how they live.
And if there's any items that are missing, they're not sure about the disaster preparedness kit. Where does it go? Does everything have to be inside of it? I just tell them, have it as prepared as you can, and then when I come, we can try and find a solution, what things need to be locked up, where and how, and the most effective way to do that. So it doesn't have to be perfect before I come.
Some of the biggest things that families overlook is their medication boxes and whether or not they should have a lock box or a lock bag for refrigerated medications, or if they need one for controlled substances. I've had a lot of families who, because they don't have those medications in the home, they assume they don't need that. But no matter what, you have to have those locked boxes and locked bags for controlled substances and refrigerated medications. Another big thing that families tend to overlook is that you not only need to have a fire extinguisher in the home, but it needs a tag on it that shows that it was inspected and shows the date, the month, and the year of when that fire extinguisher was inspected. Just because the fire marshal comes and looks at it and says it looks good does not cover what we need done for the checklist for CK. So that's a big one that families should focus on. Some of the other things we look at when we do the walkthrough are the size of the bedrooms. Is the family prepared with the right beds for the age of children that they're gonna have in the home? Are there dangerous tools, and are those tools locked up? Is there a shed in the back? Does the shed remain locked? Is that where the lawn equipment is kept? We also have to look at any kind of firearms and ammunition that are in the home. We're not there to get your serial numbers and know where the guns are kept. We just have to look at those and make sure that you've stored those in the correct places.
Whenever I come to a home, sometimes families are unsure of where things need to be, and so whenever I come, I'm not just there to check off things that you haven't done yet and look down on that. I can help you and provide you alternatives and solutions to those things that maybe you weren't sure about. So that's another reason things don't have to be completed before I come. If you have any questions, just having somebody there to walk through the house and point out, okay, this is the closet that I wasn't sure how to put a lock on it. What are some of my options? And we can work on that together.
During the walkthrough, if anything comes up that hasn't been completed or is considered a deficiency, what I typically do is talk to the parents about, is it something that can be fixed while I'm there, while I'm present? Sometimes it just takes something being moved to a cabinet that's locked with a child-proof lock, and so the parent will do that while I'm there so that we don't walk away with that deficiency. At other times, if a parent needs time to finish something correctly, then I tell them, take the week and work on it, and then just send me a picture and show me that you've completed that and that the deficiency has been corrected. And then that way, when I turn in the home study for the family development specialist to read, everything's been corrected on that ahead of time. All home study writers are trained and experienced in completing these interviews and knowing the questions to ask, not just the parents, the adults in the home, but also the children. We know how to interact with the children, how to play with them, how to make them feel comfortable so they are willing to open up and talk and be interviewed by the home study writer.
When I do a child interview, it's one of my favorite parts. They're so sweet and they're so excited to be a part of it. And even if they're a little nervous at first, once I start asking them the questions, what do you like to do? What is your favorite thing to do? Do you like school? Who's your best friend at school? And what does it look like when you're happy? What kinds of things make you happy? And all of those kinds of things. And then I ask them, what do you like to do with mom and dad? What is some special time you like to have alone with mom and dad? And they are so wonderful and so enthusiastic about answering those questions, and they give the best answers. I really love it. They're so much fun. When helping the family prepare for that child interview or to give them tips for their children, I just let them know, I encourage them to tell the child how long the interview will be. It will only be about 10 or 15 minutes. And if they're really young, around 3, it's going to be more on that 10-minute side. And I let them know that, I encourage them just to tell them it's going to be just a short time, just going to ask them what kinds of things they like to do so they can start thinking about those things, and just let it make it seem like it's an upbeat thing and, you know, encouraging, and that I'm not trying to catch them or make them feel like catch them in a lie or anything like that. When a child is not as compliant, I just really try and make them feel as comfortable as possible. And I let them know, I try to give the feeling that I'm not there to get them in trouble, or I just want to have a conversation with them. And if they're shy and they don't really want to answer a lot of questions, I respect that. And I don't push them to give answers if they really don't want to. Or if I ask them something and they say, I don't know, I don't pry into that or make them feel even more uncomfortable. I really am I'm tender-hearted that way. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. One way that I interview the children, instead of just sitting across from them with my computer open, typing like I do with an adult, that can be intimidating for a little one. And so I move the computer aside and I have a pen and a piece of paper, and I'm just kind of scratching down things off to the side as they give their answers. But I have read books with kids, I have colored with them, and I've even played hide and seek with one, so she would feel more relaxed and she was ready to play. She was done with school. She didn't really want to sit down and answer any questions yet. So we just played, and that really seemed to loosen her up. And then we went and got a snack together and I helped her prepare it. And then as we were just going through the time there, I'd ask her those questions and she was being interviewed without even knowing it. And then she was really sad when I left because she wanted to play another round of hide and seek with me. And so she didn't even know that was going on. So I have special ways of connecting with them and just trying to find the best way to get those answers without intimidating them. Oftentimes, I have families who have not had an easy childhood. They've had a difficult time growing up, and I know that sometimes they're worried that we'll keep them from being licensed. And that's not accurate. I have heard some amazing stories of people who lost their mom when they were little. They didn't have a father figure growing up, or their dad wasn't around when they were growing up. And so, bad things may have resulted from that. And just to hear how they've come through it and how they've healed from it, and now what they've been through can be a fuel to their fire, a passion to then be there for kids who don't have a father figure, who are going through a difficult time, who've lost someone really close to them. They've lost their biological family. You can tap into what you've experienced and what you've been through to be an effective foster parent, to be an effective adoptive parent. So just because you've gone through a difficult time or have maybe made some poor choices, that doesn't mean that you won't be an effective foster and adoptive parent, or there's no chance that you could be licensed. In fact, it can serve you in many ways. And I think that goes back to the way that God uses us. He can take any of our circumstances and use them to glorify Him, to make us be the best version of ourselves. So I've had some families that have said, I'm really afraid to tell you what I've been through. And I just want to assure them that I'm not there to judge them, and it could be a great experience just to talk about it and to share your story with me. And I'm there to lift you up and just really listen to your story.
For a family who has something in their past, or if there's a parent who has a mistake that they've made, but they have dealt with that and had resolution with it, the best thing you can do before the home study, first of all, is pray for it. Pray for peace about how to talk about this, and pray that your home study writer will have the understanding of what you've been through and be able to see clearly that you have reached that resolution process. Another thing you can do is talk with your spouse about it. Talk through the story, talk through what happened, talk through that process of seeking resolution with your spouse. And that helps you just to feel like you've already talked about the story once, and even helps you feel more prepared in talking with the home study writer about it. Another thing that I've had families do is journal about it before the home study writer comes to the home. And again, that's just helping write out the details, helping you feel more comfortable in knowing what you need to share and knowing the benefits of sharing that information with the home study writer.
If a family has been through something really difficult and they're just not sure how to express that, I would really encourage you to pray for God to give you those right words, but also that the spouses are there for one another and that they encourage each other. that this is going to be, this could be a great experience to talk about it. And I just want the family to know that I'm not there to catch them in something, and that I really am just interested in hearing what they have to say. If a family has gone through a difficult time and they have sought out counseling or whatever they've had to do to kind of overcome that pain or what's happened to them, really what I'm looking for is that there has been some kind of resolution, that now you've grown from it and you're not carrying any anger or resentment maybe towards what had happened, that there's been forgiveness, and that now you're ready to move on in life. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you forget everything that happened, but you don't allow it to affect you day to day in a negative way. When I'm preparing a family for when I come and I call them, I just let them know that this is a day for them to talk about themselves. Who knows them better than themselves? So really they get nervous about what I'm gonna ask them, but really you just get to spend the whole day talking about yourself. And there's a lot of laughter whenever I come, and just hearing, I love hearing about each individual, how you work as an individual, and then how your differences come together when you work as a couple. And if you are single, how you wanna make that work, being a foster mom or an adoptive mom or dad, and doing that by yourself. And I really just want to get to know you and not catch you in anything, and just kind of laid back, and I try to make it as fun as possible. And yeah, that's pretty much that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, I just want it to be genuine and get to know them as a person.
Another thing that families can do is prepare your children for what it's going to be like when the home study writer meets with them. Letting your children know that you're doing foster or adoption or both is key in helping prepare them for the interviews. You don't want a home study writer to come in and the children have no idea why they're asking them questions about a child coming to live in the home. And so talking with your child ahead of time is huge for a family and helping them prepare for that visit.
One question that comes up a lot before I come is sometimes they're not sure how to answer those checklist questions, the child profile checklist or the foster and adoptive parent placement questions. And I just try to encourage them, answer them as best as you can, and be honest about your answers. I think it's a beautiful answer to say, oh, we'll accept anything. But if you're not giving an accurate, you know your family better than anyone else, you know your kids better than anyone else, and you know what would fit best in your family. So give honest answers on that checklist of what you feel comfortable taking. One thing that CK Family Services tries to prevent is disrupting placement, and one great way to do that is that the family gives honest answers of what they feel they're capable of taking on at that time. So you may have room for 6 children, but if that's going to be overwhelming, then stick to that 2 or 3, what you feel like you're able to take. So give honest answers, and be mindful of what you feel like you're capable, you can take on.
Once I've done the home study interviews, I go home and I usually take a day just to kind of process the answers that the families have given me and to process what this family was like. And then I begin writing the report. The reports are generally 30 to 40 pages long, depending on the size of the family. And so it could take 7 to 10 days for a home study to be written well before the first draft is turned in to the FDS in the office. Once the FDS reads through the home study, if there's anything that we need to correct or anything that needs more detail on, they send it back to us. We do those edits within a day or two and then get it back to the specialist. And then at that point, it depends on if paperwork is turned in and how long the specialist needs to finalize your application.
After the home study is completed and I go home, I take about a week to type up the home study, and I will describe the home and the family and care and personalities, and that usually takes me about a week to type it up. And then I will send in all of those checklists, the child profile checklist, the foster and adoptive parent placement questions, and the home compliance. I will send all of that in. I take care of all of that for you. And then I will send in the study. And then typically for the family development specialist to read it and then send it back to me, it can take about a week or two. And so they will read through it and send it back to me with additional questions. And that's very typical. It doesn't mean that they're major concerns. They just want a little more clarity. I've been with the family for 8 hours and I've gotten to know them very well, and the family development specialist hasn't had that privilege. So there may be some additional answers that I can give to give insight to the family, and so then I will finish up those little edits, those extra little questions, and I get that done in a day. And it usually I don't have to call the family, but if I do, that phone call will be maybe 10 or 15 minutes, just if I need a little extra help on some of those questions. And then after I hang up the phone with you, I fix those extra little questions and instantly send it in. So within 20 minutes after talking to you, that the home study is sent back in.
Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it informative. We are just a phone call away for any follow-up or concerns or questions you may still have. Please give us a call at any time. Thank you for joining the CK family.